guests. Thank you very much, Dēimon, for handling me this important job. The topic of the discussion is the consensus in Georgian political elites or in Georgian society about NATO issue. But as I learned from the very last moments of the previous panel, it seems that this consensus is much broader than the consensus inside the country, because the last sentence I heard was that NATO is here. So then I don't know what to talk about, because this is the objective of this country for so many years, and I'm really glad that NATO is here. Our friends are here, and it is felt more and more every day, and we are doing our best to continue our journey to the membership, but meantime to do all the things which membership could bring, but save some equally important things which are associated to the membership. And I'm glad that this is the understanding and this is the shared objective, shared policy of the current government, Georgian Dream Coalition. This was the policy of the previous government, United National Movement's government. And this was the policy and vision even of the government before then, when President Shevardnadze was leading the country. And this was the ideals, but it was not translated into policy during the very first non-communist government in Georgia, which governed the country for a brief period of 1.5 years. But those of us Georgians who remember those years would confirm that for us, independence from Soviet Union and becoming integral part of Europe and NATO was kind of different aspects of the same job, same task. That's why I believe it is so deeply rooted in our understanding that freedom and independence of the country equals to our efforts to become part of European Union and NATO. That's why there is consensus. However, we sometimes need to explain more and better to our friends what is the behind of this consensus. Why NATO is so important, and if we are for NATO, what does it mean for us? Of course, it does not mean only more security for the country and for the people who live in this country. It's more than just security of the country and of the people who live here. It's security of the values these people want to have on this territory. And NATO membership is not just security. It's security of freedom, free choice, and those values which we have, and we want to keep it for longer period. That's why if there was no NATO, we would try to invent that, because we understand that we are not able to fulfill our objective and to keep our values alive in the region where we live, the region where civilizations meet, where everything what humanity experienced was happening here as well. Clash of empires, clash of religions, clash of ideologies, clash of civilizations. And we are a small country, and we understand that we must be tolerant, but at the same time we have our own ambitions of development, and we want to keep our way forward. That's why we need closest possible cooperation with the countries, with the societies who share the same values. In a sense, Georgia had its own NATO for centuries, and that was Caucasian mountains. Because during many centuries, these high mountains, 5 kilometers high, were providing this service, or were providing the protection we are seeking now in NATO. Why? Because it was protecting us from north, and in those ages, it was not easy to cross those mountains. But if enemy would come from the south, we would go to mountains, hide ourselves, protect ourselves, hide our treasures, and wait until the appropriate moment, and then we would continue our life. That's how we created this miracle. When about 4 million people exist on the world, who speak the language which nobody understands, who use the alphabet what nobody can understand, how we survived? We survived because we had our NATO. But in modern era, that NATO is not anymore effective. Some 8 years ago, in 2008, it took 30 minutes for Russian military planes, after the takeoff, to bomb our country, our city, our place. The bombs were coming to the mountains, what we see from here. It's about in half kilometers from here. So we need another kind of protection, and now it is called NATO. That's why there's so broad consensus among political elites. That's why there's such a broad consensus among the people that we need to continue this road. I'm proud to be chairman of the parliament, where people are discussing not the issue whether Georgia should continue the integration process to NATO. Rather, the discussion is about how fast, how better, how more effective. And our dear opposition, who will speak, have these kind of problems and issues to the current government. And the current government or majority representatives, we have some arguments to them, not to them, but to them, that they wasted many years and it could be faster, because NATO integration, of course, it's not about military cooperation only. We understand that this goal will be fulfilled not only when some countries which does not have veto power but do impose some problems on the enlargement process will be dealt appropriately, politically of course, but the NATO membership will come when all the NATO member countries will realize that yes, Georgia's membership is not only added value to the security of Europe and their own countries, but when they would realize that this is the country, this is the people, these are the people, and this is the society which has long-term objectives together with them, which has strong democratic institutions, which has very clear policies towards neighborhood, towards the issues and problems which right now are problems of the world. And we need to prove that. And it's our job to prove that. And just maintaining troops in Afghanistan is not enough. This is probably the most visual, demonstrative step, but we are doing much more in the same direction, which is not equally visible, but are not less important. That's why we need to become a stronger democracy, and this is shared among political forces, among political leaders. And now, of course, we understand much better what it takes to become NATO member than it was some 25 years ago. And Georgian participants of the conference will remember one person, Irakli Tsereteli. He was one of the leaders of the anti-communist movement then, and he was for NATO, and the rest of the political leaders would say that, well, this is too much to demand. But we are so grateful that to see that now it's not too much, it's very close. And finally, I would tell you that if all Georgians were equally pro-NATO, I would be very unhappy. Then I would remember my childhood when all Georgians were anti-NATO because of imposed ideology, because of imposed things, what is right and what is wrong. And healthy society has difference of opinions and views, and Georgian society, we want to be healthy. And if the people who have different opinion, we want to see that they are free to express those opinions. And we all who are sitting here and our colleagues from different political parties and groups, well, we are ready to argue, we are ready to debate, we are ready to listen if anybody has any other better alternative to NATO membership. We are ready. So far we failed to hear any comprehensive vision, how we can achieve our goals, how we can be sure that Bolshevism never comes to Georgia, how we can be sure that Stalinism will never come to Georgia, how we will be sure that aggression and occupation is ended for our country. If there is any other alternatives, we would hear. There are some of our countrymen and women who share those different opinions. They will participate in the next elections. They could be represented in the parliament. But I believe this will not change the direction of the country, and this will be as healthy process about the future of the country, about its choice, as it is in developed democracies. Therefore, I'm very optimistic about the future. I'm very optimistic about the outcome of the next elections. We representing different parties, and we all are competitors for the elections, although some of us are or were in the same ruling coalition. But I'm very happy, Chairman, as I said, to say that out of these three major groups, majority, minority, and independent opposition party, no matter what is the composition and who gets little more and little less, there will be no change in the pushing forward the objectives we have now. So yes, there's consensus, but that's more than consensus on the policy. It's consensus about existential issues for our country. It's consensus about our cultural choice, and I believe this consensus will bring tangible results. Thank you.